Welcome back to another week of Digitally Transformed. Today we're talking about 3 surprising ways that technology can help animals. Really interesting topic. And if you are like any of us here at Infused Innovations, you love both technology and animals, and usually they're not discussed together, but there are some really cool innovative tools that can be used to benefit animal welfare. And today we're going to talk about how technology can help animals in a number of ways. Things like the possibilities of developing today that are offering new insights and operations that are just gentler and more kinder and more mindful of animals' health and survival. So let's get into a few ways that we have seen technology helping animals. So the very first is virtual reality visits to livestock farms. Now, this is not anything new. The meat industry is infamous for its poor and unsanitary conditions for livestock. Animals are usually crammed into tiny spaces, and that helps to invite disease and infection, which is commonly treated preemptively with antibiotics. And of course, livestock farmers wouldn't want customers to think that their facilities are like this. They often try to portray their conditions favorably by dressing up and highlighting one spot that doesn't show the true environment of that place. And, those working in the meat industry sometimes complain about the opposite, that the animal rights or environmental activists are portraying the situation as worse than it really is. So some animal advocacy groups like Animal Equality and Humane Society are actually giving virtual reality video technology to give viewers an immersive experience of the entire environment at a livestock facility rather than just a limited snapshot. They've created 3D films that give virtual tours of dairy farms in Mexico, Germany, Britain, the United States. With this VR technology, viewers are actually able to quote unquote stand inside the facility and look around in any direction that they choose. Again, sort of just exploiting the environment, what it's like, and giving a little bit more of a truth to the facility. A lot of this content is actually created without permission, so it's hard to have advocacy groups get their real 360-degree footage, which they then stitch together and create an immersive scenario with. And the next step for them is to supply viewers with headsets necessary to view that 3D experience. Animal Equality has visited over 100 universities with provided headsets in order to just share these experiences with viewers, and they are working on designing a mobile app that can actually give a very similar view to this. And ultimately, despite the challenges, animal rights groups are hopeful that expanded awareness is going to lead to consumer demand just for better practices. The next really cool technology that's helping in terms of animal welfare is, now this is very futuristic, but it's so real and happening now, is translating the language of pigs. Yep. Another innovation that gets more support from farmers themselves is this interesting algorithm that helps interpret the meaning of pigs' various grunts and squeals. The different sounds that these animals make are actually an indicator of their health and well-being. So a short, happy grunt would be contrasted with a squeal of fear or stress, and they're able to measure this. And even though trained ears really can interpret these different vocalizations better than the average person can, using artificial intelligence performed best when it was tested in a study by Soundwell. The researchers basically just recorded thousands of vocalizations from over 400 pigs, and they were able to correlate them with different emotions based on related events that they had observed at the time. Things like a reunion with another pig, feeding time, castration, or awaiting slaughter. And what happened was they then played the pigs' expressions for untrained people, trained people, and artificial intelligence. And they found that the AI system corrected 92% of the vocalizations, which is more than any of the human participants, trained or untrained, were able to do. So these working on this project basically want to make a user-friendly, cost-effective tool that's going to help identify pigs' mental states and give warning signs early on if there are any problems at livestock sites. Okay, last but not least, a new alternative to animal testing. Animals have been used for all kinds of testing, from products and drug development to cancer research. There are some inherent problems with this, though. Animal trials don't always accurately predict the responses that are going to happen in the human body, and in many cases, disease must be artificially introduced to lab animals in order to actually facilitate that research. So, what's a better alternative to animals? Basically, it's microchips. Innovative researchers are now creating these microchips that are lined up with living cells and tissues for humans. And these microchips can mimic the molecular characteristics of the organs that they come from. So this provides a greater precision than testing from a different species. It actually gives a real-time look at how the human body itself handles disease. And researchers are working on this technology ultimately to aim to combine multiple organs on chips that would end up representing the complexity of the entire human body. And at this point, the technology isn't fully able to replace all areas of animal testing, but we are hoping, and some are hoping, that this method together or alternatively eventually will. Now, I know we have a really far way to go when it comes to animal welfare, as well as using technology to help benefit animals, but really it's just so fascinating to learn about all of these different technologies and how they're being used and how they can positively impact animals as well as humans. I hope that you learned something today and enjoyed this episode. I'll see you next week.